going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
Now, ladies and gents, this is the first iteration of the development of the content on this channel. I've actually got a rig set up to be able to record live duels in a way better, way more efficient manner. Now, what I will say is, I apologize initially just because the lighting wasn't quite correct in the room, hence why it's a little bit dark, but you can still see very clearly the game map, all the zones, and both players, which is really interesting, as well as their hands from time to time. So it's going to make for way more interesting live duels, and my ability just to commentate over them and record and play them way more efficiently. So today we're profiling Sunvalon versus Zodiac Tri-Brigade. Now what I will say is that my buddy that I'm playing against is basically testing out his Zodiac Tri-Brigade, and he has not played much of it, and he does make quite a few mistakes, not necessarily misplays, just mistakes that he could potentially play around or avoid in the future. So definitely get at me in the comment section below whether or not you can see those mistakes, but definitely a deck that is very interesting. Zodiac Tri-Brigade seems to be picking up a bit of steam in terms of the meta game. And Sunvalon, we all know, is just a rogue strategy that likes to spam the boards with loads and loads of plant monsters. So we're just discussing what's happening here, and again, like I said, this is an interesting setup the way that the rig is. So you might see a little bit of camera shake from time to time, basically because we're knocking the table, and obviously the camera's on the table connected to the rig, so you might see a little bit of motion in regards to the camera. But all in all, I'm really happy with the setup. I mean, it's very clear in terms of what it can showcase, and it just means that I'll be able to bring you live duels on a way more consistent basis, because it's not so much effort to set up, the rig's set up, and it's just good to go. So starting us off here, as you can see, I've got quite a few cards in hand. I set my Solemn Scolding, and I've got 2 Ash in hand, which is interesting. I do win the dice roll, so I'll go first. There was my first misplay, trying to normal summon a monster to the extra monster zone. But I'll go into the Sunseed Genius Loci and link it off immediately for the Sunvalon Dryas, which will allow me to search for my Sunvine Shrine. Now, Sunvine Shrine is basically what keeps your deck flowing, so to speak, through each of your turns. If your opponent manages to leave that on board, and they complete their turn, you are just going to plus. So what it does is, upon activation, you got to pitch a card from your hand to the graveyard, and then you can special summon a normal monster from your graveyard once per turn, each turn. Also, if you've got the trap card in the graveyard, you can send Sunvine Shrine to the graveyard to add the trap card back to your hand. So it's a little bit of recursion, and it's a lot of recursion if it's left on board, because you can just continuously summon out your level 1 normal monster to be able to pop off. Now, what I will say, ladies and gents, is we did play a first game, but for some reason I messed up the camera, and it just didn't record for some reason, and that was mainly due to myself. But just to let you know, I managed to win that game. He went into like a 16 material Bobo and forgot to attack directly, and it did not go into his Zeus, which would have been basically crippling me. So just sorting myself out here, he decides to just not do anything. I activate my Sunvine Shrine, pitching one of my Ash Blossoms in hand, which allows me to special summon back the Sunseed Genius Loci. Go into a Link 2 here, and basically what I'm doing here is just link climbing. I'm going to try and get as far as I can up into my Link 4, and I think my decision by choice would be Benghalancer in this situation, mainly because he hasn't committed a monster on board, and I think he just wanted to see if he can OTK me. He must have drew bad, because he didn't actually do anything. I went first, he didn't put any monsters on board. The Link 1 doesn't have any attack, so there's no point negating its effect or anything like that. So he decides to go into, well, just basically pass turn. So I'm just thinking about my plays here. I'm contemplating what cards I have in hand. I activate Monster Reborn, deciding which monster to bring back, and I'm just considering what he potentially could have in hand. I decide to go back for the Link 1. It doesn't really matter in this instance, mainly because I'm going to go straight into my Sunvalon MELIAS, which will allow me to special summon back my Sunseed Genius Loci. So I link those 2 off to go into my Sunvalon MELIAS. Now, there's a reason why I did it like this, ladies and gents, mainly because I knew that I couldn't OTK him this game, sorry, this turn. So I decided to go into Benghalancer, because if he does manage to out my Benghalancer, it's a little bit of recursion itself, and I've got a link 3 and a link 1 engraved, so I can easily bring Benghalancer back out as well as still carry on with my plays. He hasn't got rid of any of my back row, and I do have a Solemn Scolding set, which will effectively stop one of his major plays. So just checking what I've got engraved. I decide to attack for 25 with Benghalancer. He takes the damage to the face and I pass turn. Now this is an interesting play that he did here. I'm not too sure whether or not I agree with this play. So he decides to activate Dark Ruler no more, which is fine because he's probably going to want to protect his normal summon, but then he actually decides to go and RAIGEKI the field as well as use Dark Ruler no more. Now that is a very, very strong power play. That's something that you would typically use if you was going to out a board, for example. Dark Ruler no more plus a RAIGEKI is just fantastic, or even a Lightning Storm is just absolutely crazy. But obviously he was low on resources and he only managed to draw into his Keras, so he normal summons Keras. I could have negated it with my Solemn Scolding, but I didn't see any point in doing so. So he decides to attack for Keras for 12, which is fine. And he's not left with many more plays, mainly because of the cards that he's got in hand. I'm not too sure exactly what he had in his hand, and I think he's reading his cards just to decide what he could do with them, but there probably could have been a better way to be able to play around that and dig deeper into his deck just to see a bit more of his engine. But hey ho, it is what it is. He decides to pass turn and I draw Pancratops for turn, which is crazy. So special summon the Pancratops, banish 2 from a graveyard with a link rating of 4, so my Sunvalon Melias as well as my Dryas, to bring back my Benghalancer the Resurgent. And then activate my Sunvalon Shrine. I'm counting my, you'll see me in a moment, I count my summons here because I didn't want to play into Nibiru. There you go, just there. I didn't want to play into Nibiru, and I was thinking to myself, if he's not activating many effects, he must have some hand traps in hand. So I decided to just play around Nibiru. I think that I've got enough damage on board here, mainly because Benghalancer has got a quick play bounce, so I should be able to bounce his Keras back to hand, which is what I do. I'll just read the text just to make sure that it's not a monster special summon from the extra deck, it's just any monster. So I bounce the Keras back to the graveyard, sorry, back to the hand, and then I activate my Sunvalon Melias. He then tries to Gamma me, which I ash because he needed to special summon Driver from deck because he hasn't got much in the graveyard. He went to actually put the Gamma in the graveyard, but Gamma is not once per turn and it doesn't actually go to the graveyard. It doesn't get destroyed by Ash, it just negates the effect. So he could potentially have activated it again, but little knows, it doesn't know that I've got Solemn Scolding in the back row. So I'm just checking my graveyard here, just kind of trying to see what the plays are, and then I realized I actually did 2500 damage last turn with Benghalancer, so he hasn't really got much in terms of life points left. So I decided to go into my Sunbind Thrasher. I was just checking my extra deck just to see what options I've got, but Thrasher is definitely the best option here. I mean, it's only literally a Link 1 monster, but I've got more than enough on board. So I just simply decided to go into battle phase, attack with Pancratops, attack with Benghalancer, and then finally attack with Thrasher. That's well over lethal because I did 2500 damage my last turn. And that is it, ladies and gents. A very swift game too. In fact, he actually shows me his hand. He's got Gamma, triple tactical talents, 2 Dark Ruler no mores, RAIGEKI, and I believe that's a Zodiac Barrage. So he could have done something. He could have Barrage popped itself, special summon Thoroughblade. He could have done a whole host of things, but like I said, he's practicing the deck, and he's actually just trying to pick up a few plays here and there. But that is it, ladies and gents, and like I said, this is just a bit of a testing event just to see how my rig is set up, and I'm very pleased with it, and I will be bringing you some more content going further. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.